Hello, I'm Bob Trask. This is our weekly reset. Today I'm going to talk about something that's going to be a little bit maybe touchy or even difficult because it'll feel sometimes maybe like I'm stepping into your personal private space, and I apologize up front if that's how it feels. But see, the thing is that we are precious. We are each individual incarnations of consciousness, of Holy Spirit, and we are precious beyond belief. Do you know what a hermit crab is? Hermit crabs are these soft, beautiful little crabs, and they don't trust the world, and rightfully so, because they probably get gobbled up. So they crawl into a shell, and the shell is just big enough to support them. And then their little legs come down, and they walk around on the bottom of the ocean, or they walk around on the sand, and all you see is their little legs. They're tucked up inside their shells. You know where I'm going with this, don't you? But see, the thing is that their shells, when they get too big for their shells, they just get out of their shell and find another one. They find another one before they get out of their shell, and then they get out of their shell and get into the next biggest one. And they just keep getting into bigger and bigger shells, but they're always shells. And I'm going to take a great risk and say that that's what you're doing. And that's what I'm doing. That's what we human beings are doing. See, but it isn't so much shells as it's filters that we bring down over the top of our consciousness, because it's not safe for us to be totally who we are, to just blow out the walls and just say, I'm just going to be me, totally me. I was I was living on a boat in Sausalito during the 60s, during the hippie revolution, and I lived part of that time just outside of Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco. And 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 these kids, these young people, they were saying, I'm just going to be me. The heck with it. I'm going to be me. I'm just going to grow my hair long. I'm not going to shave anymore. I'm not going to ladies going to shave their legs or their armpits. We're not shaving. We're going to wear what we want to wear. We're going to be flower children. We're just going to be us. And they all belonged to a group, and they dare not be outside of their group. Once again, it was just a shell. Once again, it was just a membrane, a filter that they pulled down over themselves so that they had to stay in line. I remember a young guy I met was living in a bread truck, and he had they called it an old lady, which meant that he had a girlfriend that was living with him, and he was a really nice guy, Ray Hunley, really nice guy, and he came to me one day when I was living on my boat in Sausalito, and he came to me and he said, "I want what you have," and I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "This is a game we're playing. I'm playing this game. I don't want to do that anymore. I want what you have." And he moved on board with me, and we were together for several years, very close friends. Um, but he recognized that what he was doing wasn't authentic. But then on the other side of the scale, you had these people who sort of stared at all of those hippies and said, "Look at how weird they are." But they were just as weird because they were also running around carrying their shells on their backs. Well, what would happen? What would happen if we came out of that? If we, number one, identified the games that we're playing that are not us, if we could, number one, identify what are the ways in which I pretend to be rather than be. So it would be consciousness. We would wake up. We would be fully alive. Can you remember what you did yesterday? What? Only two or three things in a 24-hour period? Only two or three things in a 24-hour day. Well, that's the same with me. If we can recall those two or three things, then the question is, how did they affect you? How did they affect me? Not what happened. How did they affect me? How did they affect us? See, that's when we break through the shelter or the filter. That's when we break through. We break through by saying, what is the effect of life on me? Right now, listening to this talk, right now, looking at your computer screen or whatever screen you're looking at to see Bob Trask talking, what's the effect? What effect is this having? Or is it bouncing off of your filters? Our bodies, our minds, our spirits, all should be being affected by the events of life every day. But if you're like most of us, you not only don't remember very clearly what was yesterday, unless it was a really special day, your birthday or Easter or Christmas, or if it was a Hanukkah, if it was a special day, you might remember more. But otherwise, it was just one of those days, just one of those many days. Like you think back a week ago, Thursday, that 2 Thursdays ago, where were you? What were you doing? Gosh, you'd have to just sit and really think about that. And if you do remember, once again, what effect did it have on your life, on who you are? Now, are those silly questions ones that are philosophical but have little actual meaning in our lives? Or are we talking about something more precious than any other life event, any other life aspect? In fact, I think we're talking about something really important. If we think about it, most days go by and we barely even notice because most of our time is spent acting, pretending to be who we are. We have to be a certain way in our family in order to go along. I grew up in my family and I was like this, and they called me this name, Joanne or Joey or Bobby or or whatever name, and I had to be a certain way in that family. And what if I stepped outside of that and they'd say, "What the hell's going on with you? What are you doing? You're not even you anymore." The you that they are used to. So rather than being fully alive, we're acting, we're pretending. And when we act instead of be, we're not even living, really. We're in partial comas. We're half alive. People aren't sure whether we should be excited about tomorrow or dreading tomorrow. Oscar Wilde said, "To live is the rarest thing in the world. Most people just exist." And Tim Allen, comedian who talked a lot about his mom's attitude about men, said, "My mom said the only reason men are alive is for lawn care and vehicle maintenance." But now, before I go on, let's admit that there's nothing wrong about sleeping through a movie or the picnic or the journey. There's nothing wrong with that. This is not about us doing something wrong. It's just an opportunity to become wealthy in its truest forms. Uh, you know, there are just a small fraction of people in the world who are financially wealthy. But there's another group of people in the world who fairly small also who are wealthy in a different way, and they're wealthy beyond money. Because if you had a ton of money, like if you won the lottery and you were certainly suddenly a multi-millionaire or maybe even a billionaire, you had tons and tons of money, the question is, what would change with you inside of you? Or would you now have to pretend to be a wealthy person? Or would you pretend not to be a wealthy person so that you could shield yourself from other people who might take advantage of your wealth? It's still a game. It's all a game. But there are some people who, like the people who pay attention to the words of the Dalai Lama and to some other great spiritual leaders. There's some people who are waking up and saying, "Golly moly, I forgot about who I was. Wow, man, when I was a kid, I felt like this. Why can't I feel like that again?" What's keeping me from feeling that freedom, that joy, that ecstasy, that discovery of life? What's keeping me back? So this is an opportunity to become wealthy, wealthy in its truest forms, wealthy in every area of life. Opportunities for greater wealth, for greater health, openings for fantastic relationships. Oh my gosh, the best relationships, because you find somebody else that's outside of their hermit crab shell, and you connect with them, and it's heavenly. It's beyond heavenly. It's like that in my marriage. It's just two people connected outside of their shells. Prospects for daily excitement and joy. Those only come to those of us who are fully awake. So even if you're listening to this and you say, I'm fully awake, I'm just listening to this because Bob's talking and I like Bob, and so I'll listen to his talks. But the question is, and I'm asking me that too, are we hiding? Is there part of me that's hiding? And yes, there is. I need to look at that. I need to look at that. And I'm asking you to look at that too. Come on. Because as we grow, then we have to get a new shell. And we grow spiritually, we grow in consciousness, and then we get a new shell. Now I belong to this group of people. Now, what is my new shell? What if I had no shell? What if I said, I don't know who I am? I don't even know what I'm doing here. I'm just following my imagination and my intuition and letting my joy of discovery lead me forward through life. And I'm getting beat about the head and shoulders by a lot of people that go by me, but I'm not going to go back in my shell. Imagine that you were with others riding in a car and you were asleep. And while you were asleep, they stopped for ice cream. And then when you woke up, we were riding along in the car again, and they were talking about how good that ice cream was. You were on the same journey as the others, but you missed the ice cream. How many ice cream cones have you and I missed in our lives because we weren't awake? I mentioned you as a 7-year-old, or maybe I didn't mention that yet, thinking back when you were 7 years old. It's hard to remember now how you felt at that age. Or even better, at 5 or 6, we were curious about everything in those sweet days. When we were 6 years old, when we were 5 years old, wow, the world was this candy store. Taste it, smell it, feel it, hear it. And a lot of times it was painful. We spent a lot of time in tears because things happened to us. People said rude things to us. We got hurt. That we were discovering life was wide open. We didn't have a shell. We didn't then know that we were supposed to have a shell. We were growing. That it's psychologically, scientifically true that we grow faster in consciousness, in wisdom, during those 2 or 3 years than we do for all the rest of our lives combined. We're wide open. What if we were being wide open again? And those sweet days, our worlds were alive with adventure, and we became more rapidly intelligent than any time of our lives. Buckminster Fuller said, all children are born geniuses. And we spend the first 6 years of their lives de-geniusing them, taking away their genius, so that they learn that if you're going to belong to this group, you need to get your shell like the rest of us, and then we can all march along with our shells on. There's some of us who wake up, who stop making statements and start asking questions. Stop making statements. This is so, this is so, this is so, and start asking questions. What if it wasn't so? What if it was more than that? We realize that we know everything, but that such knowledge is almost nothing. It's like the world that it's like the knowledge that we have, if we're the most intelligent, wisest, most intelligent person in the world, and we know more than any other person knows, the amount of that knowledge would be like a postage stamp compared to the world's largest library. How can that be true? because there's not final truth. There isn't a final truth. If you know something, it's just a step. Truth is a river. And to be genius is to first realize I know nothing and to be in constant discovery. But that discovery would be dreadful work if it wasn't so exciting. But it's exciting when you're outside the shell, when you're outside, when you're saying, wow, check this out. Wow, look at this. Hey, stop the car and back up a minute. I want to look again at that. That's incredible. Look at that. And the person sitting beside you in the car looks over and goes, what? And you say, that right there. See the bark under that tree? Look how it looks like it should be brown, but look how it has kind of an almost a purple tinge to it. And they're looking at you and going, what the hell are you talking about? Because they can't see it because they've got filters on. And everything we learn about reality is simultaneously about ourselves. Everything we learn about reality, the purple of the bark under the tree, all of those things that we learn about life that we discover, we're discovering about ourselves. So our lives broaden our scope of consciousness, including our sense of touch and taste and sight and hearing. All those intensifies. Our beingness is expanded and we're drinking more and more reality. Or we could just stay asleep. And what do I mean by asleep? I mean that we've mostly become frightened of seeing what we don't see, of seeing that which we don't yet see, of seeing something more, of learning what we now don't know. We have our religions and our political parties and our education and our families and our school backgrounds, college or degrees or whatever, and our lives seem to be full. They're full. I got a job job. I got a nice car. I drive to work every day, and my friends are there, and they all like me. And I do my work, and I drive home, and we have dinner, and we watch some TV, and we go to bed, and we live our lives. And what'd you do last Thursday? And you can go to the zoo, and when you get to the penguin area, you say, I don't want to move on. I'm seeing all I want to see. God, I love this penguin area, and the whole zoo's waiting. So do we want to be fully alive and awake? Well, that aliveness awakens and arises when we get into something that excites us, something that challenges us, something that's outside of the shell, that's outside of the filters. With those new viewpoints appearing, we're becoming kids again. We're becoming kids again. Then our minds are not only change and grow, our bodies, sensing that we're young and involved, become healthier and stronger. I ask you, I'm probably older than anybody watching this. I'm telling you, stop being old. Just stop. Just stop. Just stop being old. You're not old. If you're alive, you're still young. You're still vibrant. You're still learning. You're still growing. Get rid of the shell. And I'm the right person to be giving this talk because I spent a good deal of my life dancing to the same tune day after day, year after year, not wanting to hear new music because I was afraid I couldn't dance to it. Do you relate to that? I was content with my little dance and my narrow little life, and they consumed me. And that's most of us, isn't it? And if I or any of us had, when we were 6 years old, known that one day we'd have our senses shut down, we wouldn't have believed it. Why, we'd ask, why would we turn away from the excitement and the fun of discovering everything? If we could become kids again, wow, at our age, young at heart and mind, fully alive, our lives being lived to their fullest, involved, and taking advantage of every opportunity coming our way. Oh, wow. We'd again be more curious, wouldn't we? What's that about? What's that? What's that? And we'd never get the answer. Because it's curiosity is like a portal. It just keeps going and going. Well, if that's true, then what about this? Well, Well, and so we just keep moving forward and moving forward in that discovery and learning more every day and growing more every day. With every experience we'd have, we'd come more and more into focus with all realities, seen and unseen, visible and invisible. A cloudy sky is seen while the music describing it is unseen. That's what I mean by seen and unseen. A cloudy sky you can see, but the music that describes it, you can't see it. They're both hallways in your heart that lead into an enchanting wilderness of peace and joy and ecstasy. Always portals. That's what when you look around, everything you see is a portal. If you look at it long enough, you go through it into something else. This does not say that when we're fully alive, we have to live faster and denser lives. No, it's the opposite. We find more rest, more relaxation, because we won't be dancing faster. We'll be drinking deeply of life's music in all of its forms. Now, you and I both love authenticity, because when personally authentic people are flowing with the river of life, smelling the fragrances, hearing the doves, seeing the trees, and tasting the ever-changing rich flavors of life, when we're like that too, it's then that we have purpose. Then that we have purpose. And it's then that we matter, that we truly matter, because we're now offering ourselves to the world as works of art, as unique and individual, beautiful works of art. Life is a painting, being painted. Life is a painting, being painted. It's a sculpture that's not sculpted. It's being sculpted. It's not a finished artwork. It's an ongoing and eternal artwork. And we're the painters. We're the painters and we're the sculptors. We are the canvas. We are the clay. We're alive. We're the sculptor's chisel biting into marble. We're the brush touching the canvas of life and bringing it alive. Joseph Campbell, one of my great heroes, said, "I don't believe people are looking for the meaning of life as much as they're looking for the experience of being alive." Well, why wouldn't we be experiencing that? We did when we were kids. Why wouldn't we be experiencing it now? And Pema Chodron, who I've quoted many times before, said, "To be fully alive, fully human, and completely awake is to be continually thrown out of the nest." To live fully is to be always in no man's land, to experience each moment as completely new and fresh. To live is to be willing to die over and over again. What the heck is she talking about, die? She's talking about getting out of our shells, because here's what happens when we carry those shells around like little hermit crabs. Everybody who looks at us sees the shell and thinks that's who we are. And we're in the shell for so long, we think we're the shell. But we're not. A shift from passive life to an awake and creative life will require self-inquiry and intentional action on our parts. In other words, if something new is going to happen, we have to make it happen. We have to explore and ponder and decide and stop knowing. Stop thinking we know. We don't know anything. Every time we think we know something, we stop growing. We stop discovering. If I'm living next to a neighbor who plays loud music all night and I can't sleep, right? I can't sleep, but loud music, I can't sleep. Similarly, when I'm living a life that's truly exciting, I'll stay awake emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, focusing on growing and flowing with life's river. In other words, that music next door that's keeping me awake, that's my shell. That's what's distracting me from knowing who I really am. Now, after today, let's consciously choose how we'll spend our time and what activities, adventures, and relationships will fill our lives. Let's not pretend. I know a lot of you are older, like me, maybe retired and maybe just kind of biding your time. Don't be biding your time. Don't be retired. Don't do that. You don't have to punish yourself by doing some heavy duty thing that you don't like, but find things that interest you and dig deeper and deeper into them. And those of you that are young, before job area, maybe you're still in school. For those of you who have job jobs and you're going to and from work every day, don't let that be a shell. Who are you? Ask yourself that question all the time. Who am I really? Who am I really? Yeah, I'm a lawyer. I go to work. I do this work in the law practice. But who am I really? Who really am I beyond this? What truth is this beyond this? Beyond that, what's true? Dig deeper. Let everything be a portal into tomorrow. Let's live meaningful lives. Let's be fully alive and fully aware and fully awake. Let's not go half-heartedly into our days. From this day on, let everything we do be done from our best selves, fully alive, aligned with joy, 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 and interest in what's new today. I want to finish by quoting the Dalai Lama, who said, every day, think as you wake up, today I'm fortunate to be alive. I have a precious human life and I'm going to not waste it. I'm going to use all my energies to develop myself, to expand my heart out to others, to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. I'm going to have kind thoughts toward others. I'm not going to get angry or think badly about others. I'm going to benefit others as much as I can. Thank you, Dalai Lama. And finally, I'd like to quote another great, great mind, Dr. Seuss, who said this, today you are you. That is truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you. No one alive who is youer than you. Thank you so much for being with me today. I hope that I've lit a candle somewhere in your heart and that you're going to go forward and make this week better than last week and that you're going to be awake and aware of every step. And just know that I'm loving you. Thank you.